Today, our peasants are out for a protest, and they have arrived in Berlin to stop the traffic a bit. And this has been going on for a couple of weeks. I'm smiling, but I'm not quite sure if I support every of their demands. I will read through the demand list in a second to show you what it is about, what I believe it is about, because it's really difficult to find out. And for weeks, I was really trying hard to wrap my head around it. So I will give my best, and let's roll in. So the first item says they wanted to stop the Agrarpaket, which is the label for the recent flurry of Berlin policies that affect agriculture. The verbatim translation would be agricultural package, and it says absolutely nothing. I really tried to find any document, anything that would explain in full detail what is in this agricultural package. It sounds like, like a Christmas present or something, but it is obviously, it's just a very nice name for a lot of prohibitions and stuff. I guess that some of the following points will explain what they have in mind and what riles everybody up. So let me just skip that for a second and go to the next one, which shows that despite the peasants being out there to fight, they are very submissive. I mean, incredibly submissive. It reads like the James Damore Google memo, like, oh yes, we all want more women in leadership positions, but then we just, disagree on how. And okay, so this is the sound of this entire protest as well. They are very submissive, and here they come with they want a unified directive for all agricultural legislation across the entire EU and no more German specialties. Okay, so this is an anti-national approach to criticism, because you can only criticize our government from a certain angle. And in this case, it means that our peasants can only ask for a law from Brussels in hope that they are not as dumb as our own politicians in Berlin. But quite frankly, on the federal level and on the EU level, they are, you cannot go below that. It's just this hope is really misplaced. With these people, they are power hungry people. They do not care for you. So the third point is, and they demand a neutral research into what causes the death of insects. Now, I'm not kidding. We are actually having a lot of propaganda that claims that insects were kind of dying out, insects. And you may say, well, some insects do. And my response to that would be yes, because that's the nature of how species form, and insects have a very easy time to, dissect themselves into new species. It really is just a matter of a few gene manipulations that result in the genitalia no longer fitting, and a new species in insects forms very quickly, but also they die out very quickly. So when you hear all these conservationists speaking about, mass extinction and all these animals are dying and so on, they usually mean insects, because a lot of these insects form and die out very quickly. As long as they are not special, I do not really care. Also, we have this very weird claim since, I think, 2 years or so about bees. I had my mom on the phone, and I was like, I was really shocked when she said, you know what, the honeybees are dying out. And I'm like, Mom, you know that the honeybees, I mean, the European honeybee, that animal that has been taken to all continents by the evil colonialists, that the European honeybee is an invasive species in most places, and it is one of the most successful species in the animal kingdom. Do you really believe that honeybees are dying out? Okay. But my mom is not alone. A lot of people are like this, and the Koreans have started a campaign claiming that bees, yes, bees are dying out. And we are not even talking about bees here anymore, because now the Koreans have so much power and they control the entire media. So we are weighing the insects. How many insects are caught in what year in a certain place, and then we try to calculate how many they were in the previous year. I mean, we extrapolate the data, and we guess how many bees and moths and mosquitoes had been in the previous years, and we kind of try to keep that number up because the birds eat them, and we like birds, and nobody's thinking of the diseases they may transmit, and so on and so on. So we are now in this crazy situation where a lot of prohibitions are justified with the supposed extinction of bugs. And I'm not kidding. We are so stupid that we believe bugs are dying out. So you be careful next time you see cockroach, don't hurt. And they also demand in that same item that this neutral investigation into what leads to the death of bugs must also include technologies like LEDs, mobile phone technology, windmills, and the sealing of the sealing of spaces with concrete. Okay, so what part does sealing of space with concrete play into the supposed death of bugs? And this is what they demand we should investigate, so that they don't have to do as much to preserve the bugs. Okay, we do no longer discuss whether bugs are dying out. We do not, because the media screen. So the next one is they want an independent research about the nitrate probing stations, and they want to expand the number of them, also into other European places, so they can compare how much nitrate is in the water in different places. Okay, nitrate is a chemical that is important for the growth of plants. So a lot of fertilizers do contain nitrate or nitrate, I don't know how you pronounce that. And they want that all the different stations are checked and controlled if they are not just measuring it too high. Okay, I have checked because I didn't really know what they are protesting, so I checked the dung orders, or the how do you call that, executive orders, but just for not a presidential order. I don't know how you call that. If the administrative offices issue some legalese, not real laws, but they basically also, they have almost the same effect as real laws, and they are just standards. And I have looked into this dung order or executive order legalese, and they are issuing tables as to what crop needs what amount of dung and other fertilizers, and in what time of the year you can bring them out. and how far off you have to be from the water places and so on. It's maddening. It's maddening. And it deprives the entire industry of developing, because you cannot try any gene manipulation, for example, in Europe. They have completely destroyed the entire gene research. The entire research field that has something to do with genetics has been destroyed. It's all now in Israel and in America. And because whatever they have found out is evil, and so you cannot even try new crops. You can't even try something new. They have already their tables, and they tell this is how they control this industry. And I think, I mean, the peasants are just ahead of every other industry, but this is the way they try to get hold of all industries. They control how much of what you produce, and therefore also what price you will get for what you produce. And it's incredible, and it's really sad. And you see this entire submissive attitude of the peasants, because they have been tranquilized for decades already with EU subsidies. I understand how chemicals pollute the water, the groundwater, and the ponds and so on. But if you see the problem, it's early enough to just ask your local farmers to reduce the fertilizers to a certain degree. You can still then produce a table that says only so much the next month and only so much the following months. It does not have to be set out on an EU level and then on the nation level, and then the states produce Excel tables as to how much dung is being brought out. And this comes from this, you're taking our money anyway, and therefore we own you. They also demand that imported goods are labeled if they do not meet EU standards, which is to combat this ridiculous situation that we are overprotecting our ponds and our environment, while we are importing goods from China. The good leftists in China can barely see their hands in front of their faces because it's so smoggy and dirty over there. The same is true for the good leftists in Latin America and the good leftists in Africa. Walking around all these trash dumps they have produced, they still claim they are cleaner than us, and there are a lot of people who believe that Western nations are dirtier than those third world countries, that we produce all the bad things that destroy the planet, and these people live in nature and rhyme with the animal kingdom and are so in harmony with Mother Gaia. People really do believe this, and I do understand, I do support this one, that if imported goods do not meet the EU standards, well, then label it. But actually, I mean, this is not feasible. I do understand where it is a provocation. Okay, this is just this one little provocation they come up with. You cannot check how much they pollute groundwater in China, for example. But it's just, they want to point out how unfair it is that we have already clean water and clean fields and so on, how we are throttling the production of our peasants and make them work unproductively on purpose, getting them out of their beds early in the morning only to do work that has little to no effect anymore, and the products are so cheap that nobody is paying much money for. I mean there's so much of the products on the market anyway that few people are willing to pay for them, plus they cannot produce new crops for some special, market value, because that's also forbidden. We are in this drive to combat all these evil Jewish and American scientists who, I don't know, whose work is supposedly more dangerous than Mother Nature's random change of genetics that comes with every reproduction cycle. So they are very annoyed about this double standard, and I'm also pissed about the leftist double standards, and we all have arrived at this point, so let's just move on. Okay, that's a very fuzzy one. I just read it out to you. They say they want the local life, the local agricultural product as production to be on the front of the consideration in political decision making. Okay, what I find most annoying about this point is they include climate change, and I do not want to wedge in these leftist talking points whenever you disagree with them, you know. Just let them make their points. It's just all I'm asking for. Because yes, I can come around to you know, not emitting methane into the air just for fun or so, you know. I do understand this, but the left is pushing this climate stuff on their own already enough. You do not have to send the signal that you are compromising to them. You do not have to be so submissive when you try to confront them. Don't be submissive. That's all I'm saying. The next point is instead of creating a new animal protection label, you should rather, or the politics should rather develop or further advance the existing labels. I personally cannot hear animal protection anymore. And again, this is submissiveness. I personally am really annoyed about this kosher slaughter mania. For example, all slaughtering is cruel. Your anesthesia does not work. Watch videotape of it. It does not look prettier if it's not kosher. It's the same. You have to kill animals. They also die a rough death in nature. They really do. Animals die a bad death in nature, and they do not have a conscience. They do not mourn about the dead ones. It's just they are animals. They are animals. You know. The next point reflects that they are an industry depending on subsidies. They say the societal wishes for more animal protection, extensive, I don't know how that's, what they actually mean. I think extensive caring, they write in brackets, and that means fewer crops or fewer results. I'm not sure, you know, what extensive caring or extensive working is supposed to mean, and in the brackets they say that would mean less results. So I'm not sure what that means. Oh, now it starts again. The sentence again. The societal wishes for the wolf population growth and other environmentalist measures should be carried by society financially. So they are asking for more subsidies. And again, I must say no. Quite frankly, I don't want this anymore. If we have already enough agricultural businesses and you do not need more of the same, you actually do have to go into a different product at some point. I'm open for new crops, for example, and I think you can also do a lot with your land that has nothing to do with agriculture. I'm just saying, I'm sick and tired of this subsidy stuff, and I do not share all the same demands. For example, I don't want wolves. Wolves are not a species that are short of extinction. That's like the bees. They exist in Canada, they exist in India, they exist in Iraq, they exist in all places. I mean, in the northern hemisphere, they are on 3 continents plus India, that can be counted like a fourth continent almost. They are on 3 to 4 continents, and this is a very, very successful species, and they are not subspecies we are talking about. You can, as far as I can tell, you can cross a wolf in Italy with a wolf in Canada, and it works. They are not different You do not see a wolf with antlers or something. There's nothing special about wolves. So I don't need a protection of wolves in Germany because they are enough. They are just enough. And the last one is a general reduction of bureaucracy. That's too fussy for my taste, but I do understand that there is too much bureaucracy. So yes, it is really hard to wrap your head around this. The peasants are out, but they are very, very submissive. I would rather see they make a clear cut. They say, we don't want to produce stuff that nobody wants to buy. We want to try new crops. We want to do something else with our lands. We want more freedom. I would understand a lot of this, but you know, they are dependent on the people they are protesting because they're taking all the subsidies. But also, if they do not take the subsidies, they cannot compete with all these other peasants. So that's socialism for you. That's just what happens if you allow the government to meddle too much with your industry. One after one will fall and will become submissive to your state. And this is ultimately the end of all freedom. That was it for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.